You can use the guest room or find another place, Dad said when my brother unexpectedly moved in with his spouse. It'd be best if you left by tomorrow, my brother added cheerfully. A week later, I moved out. Fear took over. She's not telling the truth. Mom, please say she's lying, my brother yelled. Hey, Reddit. It's odd how fast you can change from being family to an unwelcome visitor. That's exactly what happened to me. One moment, I was living contentedly at my parents' home, helping with shopping, covering the bills, tending to the garden while saving for my own home. The next moment, my brother arrived with his new wife, and suddenly I felt out of place. It all started on a calm Thursday evening. Dad summoned me downstairs, his voice flat and rehearsed. When I saw him and my brother in the living room, I felt that sinking sensation you get before hearing bad news. You can use the guest room, Dad said bluntly, or move out. For a moment, I thought he was joking, but he wasn't. My brother lounged on the couch, his arm around his new wife like he owned the place. It'd be better if you left by tomorrow, he said cheerfully. I just stared at him. He'd been married for less than a week, and here he was, kicking me out of the house I had called home for 8 years. The house where I cared for Mom when she was ill. The house where I spent every holiday alone while he pursued his dream job overseas. And now he wanted my room. You can't be serious, I whispered. Dad! But Dad avoided my gaze. He just sighed. It's only fair, honey. They're newlyweds. They need room. You're an adult now. I bit my lip to keep it from shaking. I am an adult, I replied quietly. That's why I've been covering your bills while you helped him organize his wedding. My brother rolled his eyes. Oh, don't start that again. We understand. You're the responsible one. Won a medal. That was the moment I realized they no longer saw me as family, they viewed me as a nuisance. So, I did what they wanted. I packed my belongings that night. Every photo, every memory, every reminder of my place in that house was gone. Mom stood quietly at the doorway. She didn't say goodbye, or even hug me. I remember looking at her one last time and thinking, this isn't about space. It's about love and who you decide to share it with. By the next morning, I was gone. My best friend, Lily, let me stay at her apartment while I figured things out. For the first time in years, I had no home. But somehow, I felt more at peace in that tiny spare room than I ever did in my parents' large, cold house. Still, I couldn't stop wondering why they had made the decision so easily. What had changed so quickly? Why had Dad been so quick to support my brother? Then a week later, I found out. My phone rang early in the morning. It was Mom. Her voice was shaky. We need to talk, she said. When I arrived, the house felt different, colder, emptier, with boxes piled in the corners and a heavy tension in the air. My brother wasn't smiling this time. He looked pale, almost frantic. When he saw me, he blurted out, She's lying. Mom, tell me she's lying. I froze. What's happening? I asked. No one spoke for a moment. Then Mom said, her eyes flicking between me and my brother, it's about the house. She spoke slowly. The title isn't what your father believed. I frowned. The title! My brother jumped in, his voice trembling. Dad said the house was his. He said it would eventually go to me, but apparently that's not true. I didn't understand until Mom handed me a folder filled with old, yellowed property documents. When I opened it, I nearly dropped the file. The house was in my grandfather's name, and after he passed away 5 years ago, it had legally transferred to me. He left it to me, I whispered. Mom nodded, looking ashamed. He wanted you to have security. You took care of him at the end. Your father didn't want you to know. I could feel my brother's glare on me. That's not true. She's lying, he shouted, pointing at Mom. She's trying to turn us against each other. But Dad didn't defend him this time. He just sat quietly, staring at the floor. So you kicked me out, I said, my voice cracking, from the house that's rightfully mine. No one replied. Even my brother's wife shifted uncomfortably. The silence was louder than any apology. I turned to leave, but Dad finally spoke. I thought it would be easier this way, he said softly. Your brother needed it more. I turned back to face him. No, Dad, you just thought I'd never stand up for myself. That was our last conversation for a long time. In the following days, I kept my distance. My lawyer confirmed everything. The house, the property, Every document was in my name. Apparently, Grandpa had quietly arranged this years before his death, and Dad had been living there under my ownership without realizing it. Then one morning, a thought crossed my mind. Not out of vengeance, not even anger, just fairness. I decided to send an official letter giving them 30 days to vacate my property. I didn't want to embarrass them. I didn't even want to see them again. But sometimes the only way to mend a broken story is to end it with the truth. When the letter arrived, I later learned that Mom cried, Dad went silent, and my brother lost it. He called me nonstop, demanding I retract it. But I didn't. 4 years, I had been the one cleaning up everyone's mess, giving up space, giving up peace, giving up love just to keep the family together. Now, for once, I chose myself. That house was more than just walls and windows. It symbolized everything they had taken for granted and everything I had quietly earned. A week later, I returned just once to gather some remaining documents. The house was quiet, empty boxes scattered everywhere, the garden overgrown, the photos missing from the walls. As I stood in the living room, sunlight streaming through the window, I whispered to myself, Grandpa, you knew exactly what you were doing. And I could almost hear his voice. Family isn't just about who stays under your roof. It's about who allows you to feel you belong there. 1 month later, the house was officially mine again, both legally and emotionally. But what happened next was something none of them anticipated. It had been exactly 30 days since I sent the letter. 30 days of silence. No phone calls, no apologies, no acknowledgement of wrongdoing. Honestly, I didn't expect any. Still, on that final day, I drove up to the old house, the place that had once been filled with laughter, family dinners, and childhood memories. Now, it stood quiet and still, just like the people inside. As I walked up the driveway, I saw my brother sitting on the porch, his head in his hands. He didn't even look up at first. You won, he muttered finally. Happy now. I paused, gripping the umbrella tighter. It was never about winning, I said softly. It was about respect. He laughed bitterly. Respect? You kicked your own family out of their home. No, I quietly corrected him. I took back the home you kicked me out of. Big difference. He looked up then, and for the first time, I saw something in his eyes that wasn't arrogance or anger. It was shame. I didn't know Grandpa left it to you, he said almost in a whisper. Dad told me it was his house. And you believed him? I asked. Because it suited you to believe him. He looked away. I didn't mean to. Yes, you did, I gently interrupted. At my brother's engagement party, I revealed my gift, a $10,000 contribution toward their brand new luxury vehicle. He laughed and said, Make it $20,000 if you want to be invited. I smiled, retracted the offer, and then turned to him, stating, Start packing. You have 30 days. I handed him a formal notice in front of 40 guests. Hey, read it. It was meant to be a proud moment, my younger brother's engagement celebration. A room filled with family, a live band playing, champagne flowing, everyone grinning except for me. Beneath all the sparkle, there was something sour in the atmosphere. The kind of tension that only siblings, who grew up vying for approval, can sense. My brother, Ethan, had always been Dad's favorite. Every award he won was showcased, while every one of my failures was emphasized. Still, when he got engaged, I promised myself I'd take the high road.